Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because we are tackling a massive, genuinely life-changing topic. We're going to look at our absolute greatest human problem and, more importantly, God's flawless solution to it. We're unpacking some deep truths from Romans chapter 3 today, and I promise you this is going to completely change how you view both your life and your education. So let's just dive right in. So here is our roadmap for today's lesson. First up, the universal problem. Next, the mirror of God's law, followed by the gift of grace, faith that actually works, and we'll wrap up with what it means to be the godly learner. All right, section 1, the universal problem, leveling the playing field. You know, if you play sports or watch track and field, you know that sometimes people just get a head start, right? They have natural advantages. But when it comes to our standing before God, nobody is perfect. The playing field is completely level. Romans 3:23 lays it out perfectly. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. I want you to really notice that tiny 3-letter word there, all. The Apostle Paul is teaching us that literally everybody on the planet is under sin. We're not just talking about criminals here. It's you, it's me, it's your teachers, it's everybody. We all fall short of God's perfect standard. And that means no one is righteous on their own. It's so easy to kind of trick ourselves into thinking, well, I'm a pretty good person, or I go to church, so I'm fine. But the truth is, human pride or just putting confidence in our own personal goodness, that absolutely cannot make us right before God. If the standard is literal perfection, human effort alone is going to fail every single time. Moving on to section 2, the mirror of God's law, seeing the true picture. So if we can't be good enough on our own, you might be wondering, okay, then why in the world did God give us all these rules? Well, we really need to understand what the law's actual purpose is. Imagine you wake up in the morning and there is a giant, gross smear of dark mud right across your forehead. You walk into the bathroom, you look in the mirror, and bam, it shows you the mud. But the mirror itself can't clean your face, right? You can't just rub a mirror on your forehead to get clean. God's law is exactly like that. It's a holy, spiritual mirror. Its job is to help us recognize our sin and show us exactly where we fall short. And once that mirror of the law exposes our dirt, our sin, it doesn't just leave us sitting there feeling guilty. No way. It directs us straight to our desperate need for Jesus Christ's mercy at the cross. It basically shows us the mud on our face so that we'll turn and run to the water to finally get clean. Which brings us to section 3, the gift of grace, God's good news. Go ahead and take a deep breath, because this is where the incredible, mind-blowing news of God's perfect solution comes in. We obviously couldn't fix the problem ourselves, so God stepped in and did it for us. Think about it like this. Our human attempts, all that pride and personal goodness, they totally fail to meet God's standard. And honestly, if we somehow could save ourselves, we'd probably just walk around bragging all day about how awesome we are. But God's strategy? His strategy is grace and redemption in Jesus. We are justified, which means we're made totally right with God, as a completely free gift. And because it's a gift that you didn't earn, it completely excludes any room for bragging. So how does this actually play out for us? It's really a 3-step process. Step 1, acknowledging sin. That's looking into that spiritual mirror and honestly saying, yep, I see the dirt. Step 2, receiving God's mercy. You do this by reaching out in faith for Jesus' forgiveness. And then step 3, you are justified freely by grace. Boom. Just like that, your record is wiped clean entirely by Christ, leaving absolutely zero room for us to brag. Section 4, faith that actually works, surrender and obedience. Now we have to tackle a really common, honestly pretty dangerous trap for Christians right here. Because salvation is a free gift, some people get the idea that faith is just an empty claim. They think they can just casually say, oh sure, I believe in God, without it ever actually changing how they live their day-to-day lives. But there's a huge fundamental difference between empty faith and living faith. Empty faith is careless. It's just words. But James chapter 2 reminds us that genuine, living faith actively surrenders to Jesus and responds in obedience. It's an active, daily response where you joyfully follow Jesus as your Lord. True faith, it's always going to result in a changed life. And finally, section 5, the godly learner, applying this to your education. So you might be sitting there wondering, okay, this is amazing theology, but I'm an 8th grade student. How in the world does this connect to me doing my algebra homework or writing an English essay? Well, Paul writes in Romans 8, to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Listen, true success in your academic life isn't just about getting straight A's or being the smartest person in the room. It requires keeping your mind spiritually centered on God. When you actively apply your faith to your studies, you actually find real life and peace rather than just drowning in stress. And guys, this right here is the very core of our philosophy. HeroesMart Academy intentionally intertwines biblical morality with your education because education without morality, it can actually really hurt people. Knowledge and intelligence shouldn't just exist to make you more capable at doing stuff, they must help you make wise, God-honoring choices. A brilliant, highly educated mind without a transformed, obedient heart is a genuinely dangerous thing. So yes, we absolutely want you to vigorously pursue academic excellence, but you have to do it while keeping your mind totally centered on God, on His truth, on wisdom, and on making righteous choices. As we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative challenge. Sometime today, take a hard look in that spiritual mirror. Accept God's totally free gift of grace. Let that living faith transform your everyday actions. And then ask yourself this: how will you use your education to honor God today? I want you to think deeply about that as you head into your very next assignment. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus.